My name is Anna. I was 22 years old and lived in a quiet town. I had a very simple dream. I wanted a small house with a bright garden. I wanted a good husband. I just wanted to be happy. Then I met Marcus. He was 25 and very handsome. He had dark hair and a warm smile. We met at a cafe on a rainy Tuesday. He bought me a cup of hot tea. We talked for hours. Marcus made me feel special. He held my hand and told me sweet stories. He said I was beautiful. He promised to take care of me forever. I believed every word he said. Love felt so easy and safe. We dated for a year. Life was full of light and laughter. We walked by the river every evening. He talked about our future together. He drew pictures of a happy family in my mind. I gave him my whole heart. But life is not a fairy tale. One morning, I felt very tired and dizzy. I could not eat my breakfast. The next day, I felt the same. A strange feeling grew inside me. I went to the pharmacy to buy a test. My hands shook in the small bathroom. I waited for 3 long minutes. The 2 pink lines appeared. I was pregnant. A baby was growing inside me. I cried, but they were happy tears. I thought Marcus would be so happy. I bought a tiny pair of white socks. I put them in a small gift box. I waited for him to come to my apartment. My heart beat fast with joy. Marcus arrived late that night. He looked very tired. I handed him the small box. He opened it slowly. He looked at the white socks. He did not smile at all. The room became very quiet. The air felt cold. He looked up at me. His eyes were dark and full of fear. "What is this, Anna?" he asked. His voice was shaking. "We are going to have a baby," I said softly. I smiled, but his face turned pale. He dropped the box on the floor. He stepped back away from me. "No," he whispered. "This cannot happen." I did not understand. I reached out to touch his arm. "Marcus, it is our baby," I said. "We love each other." He pulled his arm away. He looked angry and trapped. "I am not ready for this," he shouted. My heart broke into pieces. The warm man I loved was gone. A stranger stood in front of me. "But you promised," I cried. "You promised we would be a family." He just shook his head. "I need time," he said coldly. He turned around and walked to the door. He did not look back at me. The door closed with a loud sound. I stood there completely alone. I waited for him the next day. I waited for a whole week. He never came back. He did not answer my phone calls. He did not read my messages. He disappeared from my life. Finally, I received one short text message from him. It said, "I am sorry, Anna, I cannot do this. Do not look for me." That was it. One message ended our whole love story. I sat on the floor and cried until my eyes hurt. The beautiful dream was dead. I lost the house, the garden, and the husband. All his promises were just words written on sand. The wind had blown them away. The night was long and dark. I looked out the window at the empty street. I felt cold to my bones. The man I loved was a coward. I touched my stomach gently. I was alone and scared. I had no money and no support. But I felt a tiny flutter inside. I knew my life was changed forever. The easy days were gone. I had to face tomorrow by myself. I told my parents about the baby. I hoped they would hold me and say it was okay. But my father was very angry. He said I brought shame to our family. He told me to leave the house. My mother cried, but did not stop him. She gave me a little money and looked away. I packed my clothes into 2 old bags. I walked out of the only home I knew. I had nowhere to go. I walked the streets for hours. The wind was cold, and I was very tired. I counted the little money in my pocket. I needed a safe place for my baby. I found a cheap room in a bad area. The building was old and smelled bad. My room was very small and always dark. The bed was hard and the window was broken. But it had a door with a lock. It was my only choice. I got a job washing dishes at a small diner. The work was hard and my back hurt every day. My belly grew bigger, making it difficult to stand. I saved every dollar for my baby. I ate cheap bread. Months passed slowly. I was very lonely. Other pregnant women had husbands to help them. I only had myself. At night, I touched my belly and talked to my baby. "We will be okay," I whispered in the dark. The baby was not due for another month. But one night, a terrible storm hit the town. The wind howled loudly outside my broken window. Heavy rain hit the glass. The room was freezing. I tried to sleep. Suddenly, a sharp pain woke me up. It felt like a knife in my stomach. I gasped and sat up in the dark. The pain went away, but then it came back stronger. I was very scared. It was too early for the baby. I tried to stand up, but my legs were weak. Water broke and spilled onto the floor. I cried out in fear. I was all alone in this cold, dark room. I crawled on the dirty floor to find my phone. My hands were shaking badly. The pain hit me again, harder this time. I screamed aloud, but the thunder hid my voice. Nobody in the building could hear me. I found the phone and called for an ambulance. The woman on the phone asked for my address. I could barely speak. "Please hurry," I cried. "My baby is coming too early. I am all alone." I dropped the phone. I lay on the cold floor and waited. Every minute felt like an hour. The pain tore through my body. I bit my lip until it bled. "Hold on, little one," I prayed. "Please do not die." Finally, I heard loud sirens outside. Heavy footsteps ran up the wooden stairs. 2 medics broke the door open. They put me on a stretcher. They rushed me out into the heavy rain. I closed my eyes tightly. The ambulance ride was terrifying. The lights flashed brightly. The medics shouted numbers and words I did not understand. I grabbed a medic's hand. "Save my baby," I begged him. He nodded and told me to breathe. At the hospital, bright lights blinded me. Nurses pushed my bed very fast down the hall. A doctor with kind eyes looked at me. "You have to push now, Anna," he said. "The baby is in danger." I gathered all my remaining strength. I pushed with everything I had left. The pain was worse than death. I screamed loudly, letting out all my anger and fear. I pushed for the little life inside me. I felt like my body was breaking apart. But I could not stop now. The doctor told me to push one last time. I took a deep breath and pushed hard. Then, the terrible pain suddenly stopped. The room became very quiet for a second. I waited anxiously to hear a sound. Then I heard it. A tiny, weak cry filled the bright room. It was the most beautiful sound in the whole world. "It is a girl," the doctor smiled. A nurse quickly wrapped her in a soft white blanket. She brought the small bundle to me. I reached out with tired, shaking arms. I held my daughter for the first time. She was so small and red. She weighed very little because she was early. Her tiny fingers grabbed my thumb. Her eyes were closed tightly. My heart melted completely. I forgot the cold room and the terrible pain. I looked down at her sweet face. Tears fell from my eyes, but they were happy tears. "Hello, Mia," I whispered. "I am your mother." She stopped crying when she heard my voice. She knew who I was. I kissed her warm little forehead. I made a quiet promise in that hospital bed. I promised to protect her from the cruel world. I promised to be her father and her mother. I would never abandon her. The storm still raged outside the hospital windows. But inside, I finally found my peace. I was not just a scared girl anymore. I was a strong mother now. And a mother's love is stronger than any storm. We left the hospital after 2 weeks. The real fight for survival began. My room felt colder with a baby. I wrapped Mia in all the blankets I had. I needed to buy her milk and diapers. But I had no money left. I could not rest. I had to work. I found 3 different part-time jobs. In the morning, I cleaned houses for rich people. In the afternoon, I washed dishes at a loud restaurant. At night, I folded clothes at a laundry shop. A kind old woman next door watched Mia. Her name was Mrs. Miller. She charged me very little money. I trusted her with my precious baby. But leaving Mia every morning was very hard. I missed her warm smell and soft face. My body ached all the time. My hands were red and cut from hot water. My feet swelled inside my old shoes. Sometimes I fell asleep while standing up. But then I remembered Mia's tiny smile. That smile gave me the power to keep going. Life was very tough, but we survived. I saved every single penny in a jar. I ate cheap noodles and drank tap water. I did not buy new clothes for myself. All the money was for Mia's food and medicine. She was my only priority. Because she was born early, Mia was very weak. She caught colds very easily. She coughed a lot during the cold night. One Monday morning, Mia woke up crying. Her little forehead was burning hot. She had a high fever and looked very pale. I could not leave her with Mrs. Miller. She needed her mother. I had to stay home to take care of her. I called my boss at the restaurant. His name was Mr. Barnes. He was a very strict and angry man. I told him my baby was sick and asked for a day off. He sighed loudly on the phone. "This is a business, Anna," he said. "Please, Mr. Barnes, she is very hot," I cried. "I will work double shifts next week." He told me I was missing too many shifts. I begged him to understand. He did not care about my sick baby. He only cared about his dirty dishes. "Do not come back tomorrow, you are fired," he shouted. "I need someone who actually works." Then he hung up the phone. I dropped the phone on the bed. My heart sank into my stomach. I just lost my highest paying job. I held Mia close to my chest. Tears ran down my tired face. I felt like a terrible mother. I could not even protect my job. How could I protect my daughter? The fear was eating me alive from the inside. That afternoon, Mia needed her special milk. The doctor said it was good for premature babies. I looked in my money jar. It was almost empty. I took out all the coins and small bills. I put on my old coat and picked up Mia. We walked to the grocery store. It was raining heavily outside. The cold wind bit my face. I held an umbrella over Mia to keep her dry. My own clothes were completely wet. I shivered, but I walked faster. Inside the store, I went to the baby aisle. I picked up the box of special milk. I walked to the counter to pay. The cashier scanned the milk. "That will be $15, she said. I put all my coins on the counter. The cashier counted the money slowly. People behind me started to sigh. I felt very embarrassed as my cheeks burned red. "You only have $12, the cashier said loudly. "You are $3 short." Everyone looked at me and my wet baby. I looked at the milk box. Then I looked at my hungry baby. My heart broke completely. "Please, my baby is sick," I whispered to the cashier. "Can I pay the rest tomorrow?" The cashier coldly shook her head and said no. An older man behind me sighed again. He did not offer to help. He just looked very annoyed. I felt a deep shame. I had to put the special milk back. I bought a cheaper, smaller box instead. I walked out of the store into the rain. I stopped under a street lamp. I looked at the cheap milk in my hand. I looked at the dirty puddles on the street. I felt completely defeated. The world was so heavy and cruel. I hugged Mia tightly in the cold rain. She looked up at me with big, innocent eyes. She did not know we were poor. She only knew I was her mother. In her eyes, I was her whole world. I could not let her down. I wiped the cold rain from my face. I stopped crying. A new feeling grew in my chest. It was not fear anymore. It was pure anger. I was angry at the cruel world and my bad luck. I promised myself I would never feel this weak again. I would fight like a wild animal for my baby. I would do whatever it takes to feed her. Nobody would step on us again. I tightened my coat. I walked bravely back to our home. We reached our small, cold room. I took off Mia's wet clothes. I wrapped her in warm, dry blankets. I mixed the cheap milk with warm water. I fed her carefully. She drank it all and smiled up at me. Seeing her smile changed everything. I forgot about the rude cashier. I forgot about my angry boss. I was a mother, and mothers do not quit. I looked at the empty money jar. I was totally broke but fully alive. Tomorrow, I would look for a new job. I would wash more dirty floors if needed. I would never let my daughter go hungry again. The storm outside was still loud, but the storm inside me was finally calm. We were going to be okay. The cheap milk did not help. Mia's fever got much worse. She stopped eating completely. Her small chest moved up and down very fast. She coughed a dry, terrible cough. I held her all night, feeling terrified. In the morning, her lips turned blue. She could not open her eyes. I ran to the free public clinic. The doctor listened to her lungs. His face became very serious. He looked at me with sad eyes. "She has severe pneumonia," the doctor said. "Her little lungs are full of fluid. She needs to go to the big hospital now. She needs oxygen and strong medicine." My heart stopped. I knew big hospitals cost money. I carried Mia to the main city hospital. A nurse took her to the emergency room. Then a woman at the front desk called my name. She gave me a long paper. "We need a deposit first," she said. I looked at the paper. The number was huge. I had $0 in my pocket. "I do not have money now," I cried. "Please save her first." The woman sighed. She said they needed payment by tomorrow morning. I asked the woman about charity programs. She said the forms take weeks to process. Mia did not have weeks. She barely had hours. The woman looked at me with pity. But pity could not buy her medicine. I walked away from the desk. I paced back and forth in the cold hallway. The smell of hospital chemicals made me sick. I looked at the other parents. They had partners to hold them. I had nobody. I sat on a hard plastic chair. Mia was fighting behind those white doors. I felt completely hopeless. I had no friends to ask. My family hated me. I only knew one person who had money. It was Marcus. Just thinking his name made me sick. He left us to die. He never cared about his daughter. But Mia was fighting for her life. I had to swallow my pride. I had to beg the devil for help. I stared at the phone for a long time. It felt like holding a heavy rock. I remembered his sweet words from the past. Then I remembered his cold eyes when he left. I hated him so much. I took out my old phone. I found his number. I had not called him in a year. My thumb hovered over the green button. My hands shook violently. I closed my eyes and pressed the call button. The phone rang 3 times. Then someone picked up. I heard loud music in the background. People were laughing and talking loudly. It sounded like a big, happy party. "Hello," a deep voice said. It was him. I could not breathe for a second. His voice brought back so many painful memories. "Marcus," I whispered. The loud music suddenly got quieter. He walked to a quiet room. "Anna? Why are you calling me?" he asked angrily. His angry voice hurt my chest. But I did not cry. "Marcus, I am at the hospital," I said fast. "It is Mia, our daughter. She has severe pneumonia. She cannot breathe well." I waited for him to care. There was a long silence. Then he let out a cold laugh. "Our daughter," he mocked. "I told you I was not ready. I told you I did not want it." His words were like sharp, rusty knives. "Please, Marcus," I begged softly. "I do not want you in my life. I just need money for her medicine. They need a deposit by tomorrow. If she does not get medicine, she could die. Please help her." "Do you know what today is?" he asked. His tone was cruel. "Today is my engagement party. I am marrying a wonderful woman. Her family is very important. You are ruining my special night with this ugly lie." "A lie?" I gasped in shock. "I am not lying. My baby is dying in the emergency room." I felt so small and dirty. I was begging a monster to save his own flesh and blood. It was pathetic. "You just want my money," he spat. "You are using a sick baby to extort me. You probably planned this. You want to ruin my new rich life. Well, it is not going to work, Anna. She is your child." I screamed into the phone. People in the hospital hall looked at me. "She has your eyes." I cried out. "How can you be so evil?" I asked. "I just need money to save her." "Do not ever call this number again," he said coldly. "If you do, I will call the police. I will tell them you are harassing me. Have a nice life, beggar." The line went completely dead. I held the phone to my ear. I listened to the empty dial tone. He actually hung up. He left his baby to die so he could party. He called me a beggar. He called his daughter a lie. I stood in the hallway for 10 long minutes. I did not move a single muscle. My brain was completely numb. Then, the numbness faded away. Hot tears of rage streamed down my face. I was shaking with fury. How could a human being be so cruel? He was wearing a nice suit. He was drinking expensive wine. He was celebrating his fake love. Meanwhile, his real flesh and blood was fighting for breath. It was entirely unfair. A burning feeling started in my stomach. It traveled up to my chest. It was not sadness anymore. It was pure, explosive anger. The humiliation burned away all my fear. It burned away my remaining love for him completely. I looked at the phone screen. I pressed delete on his name. I erased his number forever. I erased him from my life completely. He was dead to me now. Mia did not have a father anymore. I stood up from the plastic chair. I wiped my face dry. I would never beg a man again. I would never let anyone degrade me like that. I was poor, but I was not trash. I walked back to the front desk. I looked the nurse in the eye. I will get the money, I said firmly. Keep my daughter safe tonight. I will bring the cash tomorrow morning. I promise you. I thought about Mrs. Miller. Maybe she knew someone who could lend me money. I thought about the local church. I would knock on every door in the city. I would not sleep until I had the money. I did not know how yet, but I knew I would do it. I would sell my hair. I would sell my blood. I would walk through fire for her. I was Anna, Mia's strong mother. Mia's tiny face flashed in my mind. She was fighting so hard inside that room. I had to fight just as hard outside. She was my only family. She was my beating heart. I would never fail her. The weak girl who loved Marcus died today. The desperate girl who cried in the rain died too. A fierce mother was born in this hospital hallway. I turned around and walked out into the cold night. I had to find a way to save my little girl. I looked up at the dark sky. There were no stars tonight. But I did not need a star to wish upon. I only needed my own strength. I ran back to the hospital the next morning. I only had $50 from selling my hair. It was not enough for the deposit. I stood crying at the front desk. I begged the nurse to wait a little longer. A tall doctor walked past. His name was Dr. Evans. He heard me crying and stopped. He looked at my chopped hair and my red eyes. "What is wrong?" he asked kindly. I told him about my sick baby. He looked at Mia's medical chart. Then he looked back at me. "I have a special charity fund," he said softly. "I will use it to cover her deposit." I fell to my knees and thanked him. He smiled gently. Mia stayed in the hospital for 5 days. Slowly, her breathing became normal again. The color returned to her small cheeks. I sat by her bed every single minute. I held her warm hand and watched her sleep. On the 6th day, we finally went home. The small room felt different now. I looked at the dirty walls. I could not live like this anymore. I needed to build a real future for my daughter. I could not wash dishes forever. It paid very little money. If Mia got sick again, I would be broke. I needed a job I could do at home. I needed to watch my baby while I worked. The next day, I walked past a tailor shop. There was a big box of fabric scraps outside. They were throwing the old pieces away. The fabric had pretty colors and soft patterns. An idea sparked in my mind. I asked the shop owner for the box. He laughed and said I could take it. I carried the heavy box back to my room. I washed all the fabric pieces carefully. I hung them up to dry in the sun. I bought a cheap needle and some thread. I decided to make baby clothes. I did not have a sewing machine. I had to sew everything by hand. I waited until Mia fell asleep at night. The room was very dark and cold. I only had one small lamp. I cut the fabric into tiny shirts and dresses. I sewed the pieces together slowly. It was hard work for my tired hands. My fingers hurt very badly. The sharp needle pricked my skin many times. Drops of blood fell on the table. I wrapped my fingers with small pieces of cloth. I ignored the pain and kept sewing. Sometimes I wanted to stop and sleep. My back ached from sitting on the hard floor. But then I looked at Mia's sleeping face. I remembered the cold hospital hallway. I picked up the needle and worked again. After 2 weeks, I finished 10 small dresses. They looked beautiful and unique. I mixed different colors and cute patterns. I added small buttons and little bows. Each dress was made with a mother's pure love. Mrs. Miller let me use her old computer. I took simple pictures of the tiny dresses. I created an online store. I named it Mia's Sunshine. I posted the pictures and waited. I prayed someone would like them. 3 days passed with no news. I started to feel scared again. Maybe nobody wanted my handmade clothes. I looked at my sore, bleeding fingers. Was all this hard work for nothing? I felt a heavy sadness. On the 4th morning, I checked the computer again. There was a bright red notification on the screen. My heart beat very fast. I clicked the button with a shaking hand. It was an order. A woman from another city bought 2 dresses. She paid $30. I stared at the screen in disbelief. $30. I made that money with my own 2 hands. I started to cry, but I was smiling. I ran back to my room and hugged Mia. We did it, baby. I laughed loudly. She clapped her small hands and giggled. That $30 was not just money. It was a bright ray of hope. I packed the 2 dresses in a neat box. I wrote a small thank you note inside. I walked to the post office feeling very proud. The sun was shining warmly on my face. That night, I did not feel tired at all. I sat under the small lamp again. I threaded my needle with excitement. My fingers were still cut and sore, but my heart was full of strong fire. I realized something very important that night. A mother's hands can do magic. They can wipe away sad tears. They can fight terrible storms. And they can build a beautiful future from broken pieces. The next week, I received 3 more orders. People loved the unique designs. They left kind reviews on my online store. They said the clothes felt soft and special. My confidence grew stronger every single day. I saved the new money carefully. I bought more needles and better thread. I even bought a warm blanket for Mia. We ate fresh vegetables instead of cheap noodles. Our lives were slowly getting better. I still worked very late into the night. The needles still made my fingers bleed. But the pain did not matter anymore. Every drop of blood meant a better life for Mia. I was planting seeds in hard rock. Soon, a small green plant started to grow. It was hope. Marcus tried to destroy us, but he failed. He gave me the push I needed to be strong. I was the master of my own life now. 5 years passed like a fast river. My little Mia was now 5 years old. She was a happy and healthy girl. Her laugh was my favorite song. We did not live in that cold room anymore. Our lives were completely different now. My online store grew very fast. People loved my handmade baby clothes. I bought a real sewing machine. I saved enough money to run a small shop. It was on a quiet, sunny street. I painted the door a bright, cheerful yellow. We lived in a nice apartment above the shop. It had 2 big windows. The sun woke us up every morning. We had warm beds and plenty of food. I never had to count my coins again. The scary days of hunger were gone. Mia went to a good kindergarten nearby. She loved to draw and play with blocks. Every afternoon, she walked back to my shop. She sat at a small table and colored pictures. She watched me sew beautiful dresses. We were a perfect team. Our life was very peaceful. I did not miss my old life at all. I did not think about the painful past. I only focused on my daughter and my work. My heart was completely healed. We were happy in our own little world. One Friday, Mia's school had a special family day. I closed my shop early to attend. The schoolyard was full of children and parents. There were balloons and fun games. I held Mia's hand and smiled. She wore a pretty pink dress I made. We played games and ate sweet cake. But I noticed something changing in Mia. She looked at the other families. She saw children sitting on their father's shoulders. She saw tall men holding little hands. Her big eyes watched them very closely. She became very quiet. She stopped playing with her friends. She held my hand a little tighter. I knew what she was thinking. My heart beat a little faster. But I did not feel angry or scared. I was ready for this moment. The sun started to go down. We walked home together in the soft light. The street was quiet and calm. Mia kicked a small stone on the ground. She looked down at her shoes. She was thinking about a very big question. We reached our shop and went upstairs. I poured her a glass of warm milk. She sat on the sofa and held the glass. She did not drink it. Finally, she looked up at me. Her sweet face was very serious. "Mommy," she asked softly, "why do I not have a daddy?" The room was very silent. I sat down next to her on the sofa. I put my arm around her small shoulders. I looked deep into her beautiful, innocent eyes. 5 years ago, this question would hurt me. It would make me cry or shout. I used to hate Marcus with all my heart. But the anger was totally gone now. I only felt deep peace. I wanted to protect her innocent heart. I smiled gently and kissed her forehead. "Every family is different, my sweet girl," I said. "Some families have a mom and a dad. Some have 2 moms or 2 dads. And some families just have a mom." She listened to me very carefully. "Did my daddy go away?" she asked. "Did he not want to stay with us?" Her voice was so small. It broke my heart a little bit. But I had to be strong and honest. "Your father helped bring you into the world," I explained. "But he was not ready to be a parent. Being a parent is a very big job. It takes a lot of courage and love. He did not have that courage." "Was he bad?" Mia asked, frowning. I shook my head slowly. "No, he was just lost and scared," I said. "We do not hate him, Mia. We wish him well. But we do not need him to be happy." I pulled her closer to my chest. "When you were born, my heart grew huge," I told her. "I had enough love to be your mother and your father. I have enough love to fill this whole room. You are never lacking anything." Mia looked around our warm, bright living room. She looked at her toys and her books. Then she looked back at me and smiled. The sadness left her eyes completely. My words made her feel safe. She understood what I meant. "We're a team," she said happily. "Just you and me, Mommy." "Yes," I laughed, hugging her tight. "We are the best team in the world. Our family is small, but it is very strong. We have everything we need right here." She drank her milk and went to play. I watched her from the kitchen. I felt a deep, warm pride in my chest. I raised a smart, kind, and happy child. I did it all by myself without a man. I realized that forgiveness was my greatest strength. I did not forgive Marcus for him. I forgave him for myself and for Mia. Hate is a very heavy rock to carry. I dropped that rock a long time ago. Now we only carried love and hope. Our sky only had 2 stars, but it was bright. I looked out the window at the evening sky. Life was beautiful and calm. We were truly happy in our 2-person world. My business grew bigger every month. A local newspaper heard about my small shop. A journalist came to visit us. She asked me many questions about my life. She wanted to write a story about a strong mother. The journalist took a picture of Mia and me. We stood in front of our bright yellow door. Mia smiled widely, showing her small teeth. I hugged her tight. We looked very happy and peaceful. The article came out on a Sunday morning. The title was From Rain to Sunshine. It told the story of my little shop. Many people read it. My neighbors called to say kind words. Across the city, in a very large house, Marcus sat at his expensive table. He drank dark coffee. His life looked perfect from the outside. He had money, nice cars, and a big company. But his big house was very quiet. He married the rich woman 5 years ago. However, their marriage was broken. They argued every single night. The house lacked joy and laughter. The biggest problem was children. His wealthy wife could not have a baby. Her family was very angry about it. They wanted a grandson to inherit their money. Marcus felt like a failure. Marcus sighed and opened the Sunday newspaper. He turned the large pages slowly. He did not care about the news. Then his hand suddenly stopped moving. He stared at a small page. He saw the picture of the yellow door. He recognized Anna immediately. She looked older but much stronger. She looked beautiful. But he did not care about her. His eyes locked onto the little girl. He brought the paper closer to his face. He stared at Mia's eyes. His heart beat very fast. He could not believe what he saw. The little girl had his exact dark hair. She had his nose and his smile. She looked just like his own childhood photos. He read the article quickly. It said the girl was 5 years old. The math was very simple. He knew immediately that Mia was his biological daughter. She was the baby he threw away. A strange, dark feeling filled his chest. It was not a father's love. It was pride and pure selfishness. He finally had an heir. He had a beautiful child with his blood. He thought about his angry wife and her rich parents. He formed a new plan. If he brought this child home, everything would change. His wife could play the mother. Her rich parents would finally be happy. Marcus would look like a hero. He wanted to claim his prize. He took a pair of scissors. He carefully cut the picture of Mia from the paper. He folded it and put it in his leather wallet. He smiled a very cold and dangerous smile. At that exact moment, I was working in my shop. I was sewing a blue dress for a customer. I sang a happy song. Mia was coloring at her small table. We felt completely safe. I thought the storms were over. I thought the past was dead. I did not know a dark cloud was coming toward us. I did not know the monster was awake again. Marcus picked up his phone. He called an expensive private investigator. He gave the man my name and the shop's name. Find everything about her, Marcus ordered. I want to know her daily routine. In just 2 days, The investigator found everything. He parked a black car near my shop. He took secret photos of Mia walking from school. He watched us laugh and buy groceries. He sent everything to Marcus. Marcus sat in his big office. He looked at the new, secret photos of his daughter. He saw her healthy red cheeks. He saw her nice clothes. He knew I took good care of her. "She is perfect," he whispered to himself. He stood up and looked out his tall window. The coward from 5 years ago was gone. Now he was a greedy man ready to steal. Our peace was ending. I had no idea about his plan. I was just a mother doing her best. I cooked dinner and read bedtime stories. My world was so innocent. I was totally blind to the danger. Marcus packed a nice suit. He prepared a lot of cash. He bought an expensive doll from a toy store. He wanted to buy his daughter's love. He thought money could fix his past mistakes. He did not understand a mother's heart. He thought I was still that weak, crying girl. He thought he could just take my treasure. He was terribly wrong. A huge storm was about to begin. It was a sunny Tuesday afternoon. The shop bell rang loudly. I was folding a yellow blanket. I looked up to welcome the customer. My heart stopped beating for a second. The man standing there was Marcus. He wore an expensive gray suit. His hair was perfectly styled. He looked older but very confident. He smiled at me, but his eyes were cold. My hands started to shake immediately. All the air left my lungs. "Hello, Anna," he said smoothly. "You look very well." I could not speak. I stepped in front of the door to the back room. Mia was playing back there. I wanted to hide her from him. "What do you want?" I asked. My voice was tight and angry. He looked around my small shop. He touched a small dress and smirked. "I came to see my daughter," he answered. "I saw the newspaper." "She is not your daughter," I hissed. "You left us. Leave now." But he did not move. Just then, the back door opened. Mia ran out holding a drawing. "Mommy, look at my big house," she said cheerfully. Marcus stared at her. His eyes grew wide. "Mia," he whispered. Mia stopped and looked at the strange man. She hid behind my legs. She was shy around strangers. I pushed her gently behind me. He knelt down on one knee. He pulled out a huge box. It was a very expensive and beautiful doll. "Hello, Mia," he smiled warmly. "I brought you a very special present. I am your father." Mia looked at the doll, then at me. She looked confused. "Mommy said my father is not here," she said softly. Marcus frowned slightly. "Your mother was wrong," he said. "I am here now. Come take the doll." I grabbed the box from his hands. I threw it on the floor. The plastic box cracked loudly. "Do not speak to her," I shouted. "Go to the back room, Mia." "No." Mia ran back quickly. Marcus stood up slowly. His fake smile disappeared completely. His face became dark and cruel. The nice man was gone. The real monster was back. "You are making a big mistake, Anna," he said coldly. "Get out of my shop." I pointed at the door. "You have no right to be here." He laughed a dark, mean laugh. He buttoned his expensive suit jacket. He did not look scared at all. "I have every right," he said. "I have money and power. You are just a purtailor. Do you really think you can fight me? I will take her from you. She needs a real family." "We are a real family," I yelled. "You abandoned her when she was dying." He ignored my words. He pulled a thick paper from his pocket. He threw it on my cutting table. "I have the best lawyers," he threatened. "They found your old medical records. They know you lived in a dirty room. They know you could not pay hospital bills. No judge will give you the child." My blood ran completely cold. I looked at the legal papers. He wanted to use my hardest days against me. He wanted to punish me for being poor. A deep, heavy fear crushed my chest. "I am rich now," he continued. "I can give her a huge house. I can send her to the best schools. You can only give her this tiny, cheap life. You are a bad mother to keep her." "I saved her life," I cried out. Tears of panic filled my eyes. "I worked until my hands bled. You cannot take my baby." I felt dizzy and sick. Losing Mia was my biggest nightmare. "See you in court, Anna," he smirked. He turned around and walked out the door. The little bell rang again. The black car drove away quickly. I was left alone in the quiet shop. I locked the front door with shaking hands. I closed all the window blinds. The sunny room suddenly felt very dark. I fell to my knees on the wooden floor. I could not stop crying. Mia came out of the back room. She saw me crying on the floor. She ran to me and hugged my neck. "Mommy, do not cry," she said softly. She wiped my wet face with her small hands. I held her so tightly. She was my entire world. She was my heart living outside my body. The thought of losing her was worse than death. I felt like that scared, lonely girl again. But then I felt Mia's warm heartbeat. I looked at the yellow door I painted. I built this life from nothing. I survived the cold storm. I survived hunger and sickness. I was not weak anymore. I wiped my tears away. I kissed Mia's soft cheek. The panic slowly faded away. A hot, bright fire started burning in my soul. Marcus wanted a war. I would give him the biggest war of his life. I would not let a rich coward steal my son. He had money and lawyers. But I had a mother's fierce love. And a mother defending her child is the most dangerous force on earth. The day of the meeting arrived. We met in a large, cold room at the courthouse. Marcus sat at a long table. He wore his best suit. His expensive lawyer sat next to him. They looked very confident and powerful. I walked in holding Mia's small hand. But I was not alone. Mrs. Miller walked beside me. Dr. Evans came too. Even my old neighbors came to support us. We were not rich, but we were a real family. The mediator was a serious woman with glasses. She asked Marcus to speak first. His lawyer stood up. He talked about Marcus's big house and money. He said Mia needed a wealthy father for a good life. The lawyer pointed a finger at me. He said I was poor and uneducated. He showed my old hospital bills. He said I could not even buy cheap milk in the past. He called me an unfit mother. I felt a burn in my chest, but I did not cry. It was my turn to speak. I stood up tall. I looked directly into Marcus's eyes. He looked away quickly. I took out my old phone. "Money does not make a father," I said loudly. "Love makes a father. Sacrifice makes a parent." I placed the old phone on the table. I played the voicemail from 5 years ago. His cruel voice filled the room. "I am not ready for this." "I do not want it," the recorded voice said. "Do not ever call this number again. Have a nice life, beggar." Everyone in the room heard his exact words. The mediator frowned deeply. Marcus turned pale. His lawyer looked very shocked. That was the night she almost died, I said. She was 5 months old and had severe pneumonia. I begged him for medicine money. He laughed because he was at a party. I pointed at Dr. Evans. This man saved her life using a charity fund, I said. I pointed at Mrs. Miller. This woman watched her while I washed dirty dishes. These people are her real family, not him. You talk about my poor past. I looked at the lawyer. Yes, I was very poor. My hands bled from sewing clothes at night. But my daughter never went to bed hungry. She never felt unloved or unsafe. I walked closer to Marcus. You want to buy her now because you need an heir, I said. You think a father is just a name on a paper. You think you can buy 5 years of tears with toys. A real father holds his baby when she is sick, I cried out. He works until his bones hurt to feed her. He does not run away when it gets hard. You are just a coward with a fat wallet. The room was completely silent. Some people had tears in their eyes. The mediator looked at Marcus with pure disgust. Marcus tried to speak, but he had no words. His money could not hide his ugly truth anymore. Suddenly, Marcus pulled out a shiny gold necklace. He walked toward Mia. Mia, look, he said nicely. Come live with me. You will have a huge room. You will have ponies and all the toys you want. Everyone held their breath. Mia looked at the shiny gold necklace. Then she looked at the tall, strange man. She did not reach for the necklace. She stepped back and held my hand very tightly. I do not want your toys, Mia said in a clear voice. You made my mommy cry. You're a bad man. She wrapped her arms around my legs. I only want my mommy. She is my hero. Marcus dropped his hand. The necklace hit the floor with a soft sound. He looked completely defeated. He realized he could never buy her pure heart. All his money was completely useless against our deep love. The mediator closed her thick folder. This meeting is over, she said firmly. Mr. Marcus, you have no case here. Anna is a wonderful mother. Do not bother them again. It was a complete victory for us. I picked Mia up and kissed her face 100 times. We walked out of that cold building into the warm sunshine. I left the coward behind in the dark. The mother bear had finally won the war. News travels fast in our city. Marcus's rich wife found out about the court meeting. She heard the terrible recording of his voice. She realized he was a cruel liar. She filed for a divorce the very next day. She kicked him out of her big house. Her powerful family took back all their money. Marcus lost his expensive cars and his big company. He became a lonely, poor man. He finally got what he truly deserved. Some people asked me if I felt happy about his ruin. I just smiled and shook my head. I did not care about his dark life at all. I had no time for hate or revenge. My heart was full of light. It was a beautiful Saturday morning. Mia and I opened our shop together. The bright yellow door welcomed the warm sunshine. Customers came in to buy cute dresses. The shop was full of happy laughter and sweet music. I sat at my sewing machine. I looked out the big front window. The sky was very clear and blue. I thought about the scared girl from 5 years ago. I thought about the dark, cold, and rainy nights. That weak girl was gone forever. The heavy storms tried to break me, but they only made my roots grow stronger. I did not need a prince to save me. I did not need anyone to protect my life. I saved myself. I built my own castle with a needle and thread. I became my own strong armor. I was the brave knight of my own story. And I was the best mother to my sweet child. Mia ran to me with a new drawing. She held it up proudly. It showed two people holding hands under a big yellow sun. It is you and me, Mommy, she smiled brightly. We are the best team. I picked her up and hugged her tightly. She smelled like soap and sweet strawberries. Yes, my little sunshine, I whispered in her ear. We are the best team. And our beautiful story is just beginning.